Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for being with us. Well, in our last segment, we heard from two education experts about the issues they identify with the Common Core state standards. In this segment, we will hear the perspective from the State Education Department. Judy Osgood with the Department of Education and Linnea Walters with Rita Cannon Elementary School in Reno are here to share that with us. Thank you both so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
So Judy, I'm going to start with you. It's been 4 years since Common Core was implemented in Nevada. In that time, what kind of changes have we seen in terms of test scores? I mean, have we seen any notable changes?
Well, that's an interesting question because even though Common Core has been in our classrooms for the last 4 years, the assessments have not been fully aligned yet. This year is actually what we consider, from the state perspective, the final year of implementation of the standards, in that we are finally going to have in place what we consider our next generation set of assessments. The Smarter Balanced assessments will be administered to all students in grades 3 through 8. And those will take the place of what have been in the classroom previously, the criterion reference tests, the CRTs. And not that those weren't testing the right things previously, but they were not fully aligned to the standards. And so in terms of, have we been testing and have we seen results change? It's kind of been too soon for us to say for sure. This year is really exciting because when we do first administer these fully aligned tests, which are going to reflect what our students are learning in the classroom more so than our tests have in the past, it'll be an opportunity for us to really look at what our students are learning, and we anticipate the results will actually be a little lower than what we've seen before. So it's apples to oranges. We can't really compare the test scores this year. We see this as an opportunity to push the reset button, so to speak. It's a fresh start, and so it's a new baseline. From this year forward, we will then be able to ask the question, are our students improving under the set of standards, and where do we stand in relation to other states, which is something we've really never been able to do before because we've been teaching under different standards and administering different tests.
Well, it's a difficult thing, I think. I think that's a prediction a lot of people have made. The test scores under Common Core are going to be lower just because it is a different system. Difficult thing, I think, for parents to swallow because they're going, well, I only get one shot at this. You know, it's not like we're a district where every year it gets renewed. My kid only goes through this one time. Is this going to hurt their future? What's your response to that?
Well, our response to that, I mean, there are a couple of things. First, it's a relatively I don't want to say low stakes test. I mean, not that it doesn't count, but you know, the repercussions, I mean, some students, parents are starting to ask, well, what's going to happen to my child? I mean, if a child who is considered proficient under the old set of tests is suddenly considered not proficient under the new tests, does that mean my child won't pass that grade? Now, although that's actually a decision that's made at the local district level, that's not something that we see will happen. So these tests are more of a measurement of students' success, and it helps teachers diagnose where they need to be focusing. It's not meant to be used as punishment for the kids. It's really meant to be a source of useful data that teachers and parents and administrators can learn from. So I know it creates concerns for parents. I'm a parent too, and I don't like to see changes like that happen as far as my students, you know, my child's level of proficiency. But you know, the stakes are not that high, so it's not meant to be harmful to the students. Okay,
now Linnea, I want to turn it over to you real quick. You know, you've been in the classroom before. What kind of changes are we seeing now that Common Core has been implemented?
Well, one of the great strengths, I think, and one of the great privileges, I think, of being in Washoe County right now is our district's had a very strong implementation plan from the beginning. Our instructional leaders in curriculum and instruction understood from the beginning that the Common Core state standards represented a significant shift in instruction. And they asked teachers to take on the challenge of shifting their instruction in bite-sized pieces. They asked them to experiment in the classroom, to come back in groups, to offer data, to reflect with each other, to think about what we would need to do differently to get students from where they were currently to what the new standards were going to demand of them.
Okay, so would you say then that Common Core has been an improvement? And if so, by how much? Or if not, by how much?
I would say it's a significant improvement. And the reason I say that is our previous standards, first of all, sort of nationally, were not very strong. They were very discretely skill-driven. So we were teaching students to do things in isolation through repetition, which cognitive psychology around reading and all kind of learning actually tells us that sort of learning doesn't transfer very well to other academic areas, into real-life application tasks. The Common Core State Standards ask students, it puts application at the center of what students do with reading and mathematics.
Okay.
And that's been a huge shift in instruction. So for teachers learning to put application at the center of what we do with students rather than discrete skill acquisition has been a big change. But it's a change for the better, but it's a hard one, and it's one we're going to keep working on.
I'm sure, obviously, neither of you are strangers to this, but Common Core has been the recipient of a lot of criticism from all sides. You know, some teachers vehemently oppose it, some parents vehemently oppose it. Is there any merit to these concerns? Concerns about the testing, concerns about these changes not being for the better? Either of you can field this.
I would love to. One of the things that I find intensely frustrating as a teacher is there's a significant amount of misunderstanding in the public and even in our profession about the relationship between standards, curriculum, and assessment. They're three different pieces of the same puzzle. Standards define what we want students to be able to know and be able to do. And the Common Core State Standards are terrific standards. They're process-oriented, they're strong, they demand sort of at the reading level, there are 10 standards. But the end result is we want students to be able to read many types of text. We want them to be able to understand them. We want them to be able to compare points of view of authors across texts. And we want them to be able to write based on evidence that they pull from text. The Common Core State Standard doesn't define what those texts are. That's called curriculum. Districts drive curriculum. So I understand that teachers, parents have concerns about the things that their students are reading or encountering in the classroom or in assessments related to the standards, but the curriculum and the assessments are not the standards. The standards themselves are wonderful, they're strong, and I would ask anybody who really has issue to sit down and read them with me, because I would really like to know how you can find fault with them. They're excellent standards.
Okay, Judy, if it were discovered or found through research or through this implementation process that there are flaws in Common Core in the way it's being implemented, it's not working the way they expected it to, how flexible would you say the Nevada Department of Education is in terms of changing it?
Well, here's the thing. Nevada has been a standards-based state since 1996, and what that means is at the state level, we have a process for regularly reviewing and adopting sets of standards in all subjects, not just English and math, which of course Common Core only is in the subjects of English and math. And so we have a process that's in place right now whereby we regularly review standards in every subject approximately every 5 to 7 years. So the Common Core set of standards, which were adopted in 2010, on that normal life cycle of standards review and adoption, would be reviewable again in several years. And so to answer your question, really at any time, I mean, there's no set schedule. It's just that when the time comes and when there's a recognition at the state level that it's time to make a change and we're not keeping up with national standards, and that's one recognition we had, as Linnea said, we knew that our math and English standards were drastically outdated and we're not at the level of rigor that we needed to help our students succeed. So we have staff that is constantly thinking about that. We're constantly interacting, with the districts to understand what our students need, what our students don't have, looking at data, which is one thing that the assessment results tell us that's very important. So I guess to answer your question is, we not only would we be receptive, but that's what we do. We on a regular basis review our standards in every subject. We just did a fairly major overhaul of our science standards. For example, the State Board of Education adopted the Next Generation Science Standards earlier last year, and that was part of the regular standards review and adoption process.
Okay.
Could be useful, could not be, not sure. The assessment that the state's adopted this year, the Smarter Balanced Assessment,
Actually, I'm so sorry, Linnea. It looks like we are actually running out of time. I hate to interrupt you.
No
We will
problem.
continue this conversation after. Okay, we're going to have more information on our website for you. Everything you ever needed to know. I will post the Common Core standards if you want to go read them. I will post the Nevada Department of Education has more information on frequently asked questions. I will post those on our website. You can also find past episodes there of Face the State. But that is it for us. Thank you so much for being with us. We will see you next week.